Hey, what is up internet? How are you all doing? So I've been rocking the Zenfone 9 for the past 3 months and I thought it's time for me to give you guys the long-term review of this phone because you guys seem to like these more than the actual review, but I recommend you watch the original review of the Zenfone 9. I will link it somewhere here because in this video I will mostly talk about how the Zenfone 9 has aged over the past 3 months and does it really make sense for you to get the Zenfone 9 in 2023. Let's go. Alright, one of the things that bothered a lot of people when this phone first came out last year was how the back of this phone will age over time, because believe it or not, even in my original review, just after a couple of weeks of use, the back did start to wear off. But this is how it looks after 3 months. Now interestingly, most of the text and graphics are now gone and I don't mind it honestly because I didn't like them anyway, but the back definitely has worn off even more. Now again, it is not as bad as I thought it would be, but on the other hand, it is definitely not how a glass phone would look like after 3 months. I also rocked this Rhino Shield case in this past 2 months or so, and it definitely makes the phone bulkier, no denying that, but it did also protect this phone from some serious drops. So shout out to Rhino Shield for a really good job on the case. But now that we are on the case, one thing that you should definitely keep in mind before buying the Zenfone 9 is that you will not get a lot of accessory options. Even in the regions where this phone was actually launched, so United States, Europe, you will not get a lot of case options. But that aside, the phone still feels super nice in the hands. I still can't get over how small the form factor is. Love the flat out edges as well. The fingerprint sensor, the volume rockers, all those things are still great. And I often get asked which phone is this thanks to those massive cutouts for the camera bumps at the back. Now if you flip this little boy around, the 5.9 inches AMOLED display has also served me rather well in this past 3 months. It is definitely not my favorite thing about the Zenfone 9, but it's still great. I so wish that the panel was a tad bit brighter because I did find myself struggling a little bit in certain harsh sunlight conditions, but apart from that, it's great. The colors are still really nice. I haven't had any refresh rate drops or any other issues with the display ever since I set it to 90Hz, and life has been rather smooth since then. Or maybe not. Shit. But talking about smooth, one thing that is definitely smooth on the Zenfone 9 is the software, and this was one of the reasons I got the Zenfone 9 myself, and I see a lot of people actually going for Zenfone 9 only for the software. Now first thing first, I did get the Android 13 update on this guy sometime in first week of December, and it has also gotten a couple of more updates since then. But yeah, the phone overall still feels super snappy. I do appreciate a couple of customization options here and there, like the fingerprint gesture, also double tap at the back, but I ended up switching them off after a couple of weeks because they were a little too sensitive for me. But besides that, this is as stock Android as it can get. But there were a couple of things that bothered me about the software. Now first, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to replicate this again for this video, but whenever I used to get a call, I would hear the ringtone, I would also hear the vibration, but it would take the Zenfone 9 a couple of seconds to wake up the display and show the calling screen. And then there was one more bug which irritated the hell out of me. So when I was again on the call and I had to switch from earpiece to the speaker mode, it would go all blank, and going back to the earpiece mode would also not fix the issue. I had to always disconnect the call and make the call again to actually fix the issue. Now this issue seems it has been fixed, but this is where my biggest concern grew about the Zenfone 9 in this past few months. Now to start with, they're already just promising a couple of years of software updates. We have already gotten Android 13, so just one more to go, but they're also rather slow at fixing these bugs, so I hope they better speed things up. Now if we talk about heat management, thermals on the Zenfone 9 are excellent as well. Now even though we are right in the middle of winters here in North India, so it definitely helps, but despite that, I have played a bunch of games on the Zenfone 9. I have never felt that it got abnormally warm. So the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 is really good when it comes to at least containing the heat, and I have very high hopes for the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 coming this year. Another thing which is beyond excellent on the Zenfone 9 is the battery life. Now to be honest, it has gone down a little bit ever since the Android 13 update, But still, for the phones this size, the 4300 mAh battery inside is an absolute beast. If you can manage to charge this guy up to 60% in the morning, you are easily good to go for the entire day with light to moderate usage. But if not that, the 30-watt charger, which I have to emphasize is included in the box, can also juice this guy up in about 60 minutes or so. So that is also a welcome addition. Okay, let's also talk about the cameras. Now, honestly, I never expected the Zenfone 9 to be great when it comes to the optics. But this guy, believe it or not, ranked third in the recent MKBHD's blind smartphone camera test. So is it that good? Well, I would say it is. At least the primary camera is, because you can get some great pictures from this primary 50 megapixels camera. Now, the HDR, as I also said in my original review, can be aggressive sometimes, especially when the lighting conditions are challenging. But I like the fact that it doesn't overdo stuff. So it won't overdo the saturation a lot, or it won't over sharpen the images. But hear me out. I feel this is also the biggest flaw of the Zenfone 9's camera system. You see, never in the last 3 months I clicked a picture from this phone and was blown away by it, because I feel in the smartphone photography world, the post image processing can actually do wonders for most of you out there. And this is where I feel a lot of you actually like pictures taken from the likes of iPhones, Samsungs, or even Pixels, because their post image processing is just better. But anyway, the wide angle camera is also decent. It is definitely softer, and because of the high aperture, it relies a lot more on the post image processing as well, but I had no real complaints. The selfie camera, surprisingly, is still my favorite of the three. Again, when you look at the picture in the viewfinder, it will look all soft, but when you actually click it, Asus's post image processing does its magic. Now, in terms of videos, the Zenfone 9 is again great. Now, honestly, I didn't shoot a lot of videos in this past few months. It also has that gimbal mode, but again, I didn't find myself using it that much. But I do appreciate something like this on a phone that also works well. What also worked for me was the fingerprint scanner on the Zenfone 9. Again, I think I did mention this in my original review of this phone as well, but if you can't implement a good in-display fingerprint scanner, I can always take a physical fingerprint scanner on the power button at the back, because it is just accurate, it is fast, and it just works like a charm. But surprise, what didn't really work like a charm for me was the 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, don't get me wrong, there was no issue with it, but I only found myself using it once in the last 3 months. Again, I get that there are a lot of people who would want to game on this phone, who would want to listen to their music with their wired earphones, but I am definitely not one of them. Alright then, should you really get the Zenfone 9 in 2023? Well, I have seen this going down to about $599 or even below that during this Black Friday sale. So if a compact flagship is something you are after, the Zenfone 9 is still the best option out there. But there's just one thing that bothers me a lot at this point, and which is the software support, because one bad software update followed by a delayed fix can actually push a lot of users away from Asus. And by the way, the S23 launch is just around the corner, so it will be interesting to see how Samsung positions that. So I would rather wait a couple of weeks and see what Samsung has in store and then take the call. But yeah, that was it. That was my long-term review of the Zenfone 9. Now, if you like this video, please drop a like, and if you have any questions about the Zenfone 9, hit me up in the comment section below. Subscribe to TQNet for more such videos in futures. Follow me on social media, and you already know the drill by now, right? Keep asking, and I will see you in the next one.